We're here in another episode of Beyond the Safety Net, and today we've got a special guest. I'll start with myself. I'm Dana with DPS, Communication Specialist, and I'm here with
Inger, also Communication Specialist. We are not the special guest, but we'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, please introduce yourself.
Well, I am glad and happy, and it's an honor to be here at Beyond the Safety Net. I am Officer Robles Laboy with Cobb County Police Department. First name Jan.
Oh, okay.
So you can refer me as Jan.
Officer Laboy. What unit are you currently in?
I am in the Community Affairs Unit, and I am the Hispanic liaison for the department.
Very exciting.
Yes.
So we like to start with a little bit of history. So can you tell us a little bit about, where you're from?
I am from Puerto Rico. I was born and raised there, grew up there since 2007. 2007, my family decided to move over here to Georgia, to Cobb County. So we moved from Puerto Rico to Cobb County. This is during the time where the economy kind of went bad and my dad lost his job and he was looking here in Georgia and found a job. So we moved over here and we've been here ever since. I went to Merida High School, graduated from Merida High School. And I've been here in Cobb County ever since. And it's my home.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, so tell us a little bit about how was that move? Was it like a culture shock? Was it easy to make the move from Puerto Rico? I mean, you said you went into middle school, so.
Right. No, it was not easy. Although, I went to a private school in Puerto Rico. It was called American School. And they taught classes in English. And then you had the Spanish class. So I knew a little bit of English. I wouldn't say a little bit. I knew a good bit of English. So moving here, language wasn't too bad. There were certain things that I would say wrong, but I was able to catch on pretty quick and fix it. I did have an accent though. So, growing up in middle school, kids, when they hear that accent, they make jokes, they make fun of you and stuff like that for having an accent. So I worked really, really hard in fixing my accent so I wouldn't have one. So I would talk and hear myself, listen to myself and stuff to try to pronounce, enunciate the words correctly, So yeah, I mean, it was not easy. And then not being around family, right? Not having my grandmother, both my grandmothers, not having my cousins that I grew up with. They were like my siblings. All that was just completely different. The culture is just different. The way
food.
Correct. Yes, the food, definitely complete different food. So it was definitely hard. And there was a lot of nights where I definitely cried and told my parents, like, I want to go back. Like, let's go back. But one thing, I believed in God, because we moved here believing in him. He had a word that we would move here and start our own church. And so my parents always told us, like, hey, God wants us here. We're going to do this together. We're going to fight through and we're going to lean on him, right? We're going to lean on God and he's going to help us through this. And I'm glad that happened because where we are right now, it's amazing what God has brought us to, with my mom now having her own church, History Makers, and me being here now, right, in law enforcement, being a police officer and stuff, and how everything turned out going from where we were. And now looking back, it's kind of like, I'm glad that we stuck with it and everything happens for a reason, right?
It was worth the struggle.
Definitely. It was worth the struggle for sure. And I feel like that struggle also kind of like made us resilient.
Gotcha. I heard you say you lean on your faith a lot. How do you lean on your faith in law enforcement with everything that you see?
Great question. I pray all the time. I ask God to protect me, right? And I know I have people around me that pray for me all the time. My mom tells me all the time that she always prays for me to make sure every day, to make sure that God protects me, that nothing happens. And I feel like this is a great place to make a difference, to make a change, right? To help somebody. And in every situation that I go into, I try to find a way to help beyond than just the job itself, go a little bit extra with not just handling a call, but kind of like, what can I do to go a little further beyond and help the situation, right? And I feel like that comes from my faith, wanting to be like Jesus, right? And loving others and caring for people. And at the same time, being in law enforcement, you also have to have kind of like a hard hand, right? And when you have to put your foot down and say, hey, you were wrong, and now I got to take you to jail, right? For committing a crime. So, you battle with that, but you let it, you give it to God, right? And you pray about it, and super, super connected with him. And every decision that I've made in my life, I've done it with him. And every situation that I go into on the road working, I also do it with him. And I know that I'm making the best decision possible in that situation.
Pretty incredible. Your move here, you graduated high school, and what led you to law enforcement? But what led you to specifically Cobb County?
Specifically, Cobb County is a pretty easy answer. I mean, grew up here in Cobb County. Well, okay, so before this, I was in sales. I did sales for 7 years. I used to sell hair products. I used to have like a big van with hair products in them, and I would just go to different hair salons and sell hair products. And then I did that for 7 years, and I got kind of tired with the selling part of it because, if you don't sell, you don't make any money, right? So every month it was like back to $0 of making money. So it's like I had to now hustle again. And it's a constant sell. And if I wanted time off or something like that, I had to kind of manage that. And okay, so I need to sell on this week. I need to sell what I would sell in 2 weeks, right? In order for me to be able to take the next week off and still make the money that I normally make in 2 weeks, right? So you have to work extra hard that week so you can have that next week off. And also going back to my faith, every decision that I make, I do it with God. And that job specifically also came through my mom knowing somebody from church, and they told me about it. And I know now that God put me in that job in that company for a reason. And that reason was the owners of the company, they went through a very hard time on their marriage, and really, really hard times. And my boss, he turned to me and he asked me for help. And the only thing I could tell him, and he was someone who did not believe in God. He believed there was a higher energy, but he didn't believe in Jesus Christ, and he didn't believe in God. He actually, I wouldn't say hate, but he disliked the religion, right? He disliked Christianity to a certain extent. But then when that happened, I feel like God a lot of times let things happen for a reason, right? So then that happened between their marriage, and he turned to me and he asked me for help. And the only way that I know how to help, and I wasn't married at the time either, I cannot advise him on marriage or anything like that. The only thing I know how to help is with God, right? So I started preaching to him about the gospel. And then I put him in contact with my mom, and they both started seeing my mom together and separately. And they also got a marriage counselor as well that was through my mom. It's another pastor from Puerto Rico, and he helped them too. And they restored their marriage, and they've been stronger than ever. And they both accepted God and Jesus Christ as their savior. Yeah, they both came to Jesus Christ. She was Jewish. She's Jewish, and she accepted also Jesus Christ. And him who didn't believe in God and actually disliked Christianity and Jesus Christ, he turned to God and he accepted Jesus as their savior. Yeah, and then after that, I was kind of like, I feel like the reason why God put me here, I think that job is done. I think it's time to move on. And at the time, my mom had started History Makers Church, the appreciation luncheon for law enforcement. And I started meeting people there, officers, and, captains, majors. That's how I met Chief Van Hooser at the time. I believe he was a major, or a deputy chief. Deputy Chief Adcock, met him there. Major Bullock also met him, made really strong connections and ties with a lot of people in Cobb County law enforcement, and there's one specific guy he's now in working for U.S. Marshals, Brandon Lamb, and became really good friends with him. And he told me all about the job, and I was like, I feel like God wants me to go into Cobb County law enforcement, Cobb County Police Department. And I applied and I got the job. And in my final interview at the time was Chief Cox, who was the chief. And But in my final interview, the person who was directing and being the leader of my final interview of the panel was Chief Ed Hooser. And he told me in that interview, he said, I don't know what it was, because he's a really big fan of my mom, of Pastor Dorcas. And he was like, I don't know what it is. I don't know what it, but you being here, I feel the presence of God. And he started talking about my mom. He said, I really respect your mom. There was a word that she gave in one of the appreciation luncheons that really got to me. And I know that you and your mom and your family are people of God that work, walk with them and walk in the Spirit. So that really meant a lot to me. And yeah, and I'm here now. And I know that I'm here for a purpose.
What better place to me to serve your own community if you basically, this is where you grew up
Right.
the second half of your life. So
Right.
there's nothing better, I think, than policing your own community to
Right.
make an actual difference.
Exactly. And I was, and I was looking around, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the congregation, right? 95% Hispanics. And then I was looking around and I saw some of the, of the congregation, that their interactions with law enforcement and the struggles with whether the language or their immigration status and stuff like that, or the fear of police and stuff like that. So, another big reason was I told myself, I started looking around, I was like, who better than myself, right? Than a Hispanic bilingual that can provide that service, also in Spanish.
Somebody they can trust.
Right. And that understands their culture, understands where they come from, understands their struggle as well. Definitely was another big reason why I joined law enforcement, and another big reason why I'm here in this position now in community affairs and as the Hispanic liaison to help the Hispanic community, going out there, bringing information to them, right? Letting them understand about the law, right? And the way of doing things and stuff like that. Also building more than anything, building that trust with the Hispanic community, having someone that they can trust in law enforcement that they can turn to and ask questions has been really big. And I'm enjoying the time that I'm here in the position that I'm in right now. And I feel like this is where God wanted me to be. God, had brought a word, prophesied about me to my mom before I even got this position.
How so?
He through a prophet told my mom that this position was for me, that I was not gonna like it because I was working the road and I really liked working the road and policing, and that I wasn't gonna want the position, but that's the place and that's the position that God wanted for me, that I was meant to have that position to help, the community. And sure enough, my mom never told me about it, but she recorded it and she told other people and told them not to tell me, obviously, because she didn't want to jinx it, right? She didn't want things to change. But sure enough, the person who was before me, who's a sergeant now, Sergeant Nario, Willie Nario, had the position, and he came to me in an email and asked me if I was interested in the position.
Remember those times?
Yeah. And then
because I kept asking him, who's gonna take your spot?
So he emailed me and was like, hey, would you be interested in the Hispanic liaison position? I'm soon gonna be, a sergeant. And then and I replied to him. I told him, I was like, hey, like, thank you, I really appreciate it, but I don't think it's the right time. I had other aspirations
for that too. He said I offered it, but I don't know if he's gonna take it. And I was like,
yeah. So I told him, I was like, hey, I really appreciate it, but
thanks, but no thanks.
My heart is in other special operations. I want to do other things, right? Like either MCS or Viper or SWAT, something like that. And then, but he planted that seed. And then when I told my mom about it, she was not happy that I, kind of rejected it a little bit. But I told him, I was like, hey, but I won't say, I told him, I said, hey, never say never. Maybe another time, maybe down the road in my career after I've done other things. It was
right around the corner.
Exactly. And then after that, month and a half went by, and then Sergeant Grimstead also emailed me asking if I was interested in the position. And then since a month and a half had gone by, I had talked to my mom, and she told me what God had prophesied, and it grew in my heart. And I went back, right, to what was the purpose, what was the reason as to why I was here in law enforcement. And I replied to Sergeant Grimstead. I told him, hey, I would like to learn more. I would like to do some ride-alongs. And I am interested. Did some ride-alongs with Sergeant Nario, Officer Nario at the time. And it was like slam dunk. I knew then that this is where God wanted me to be. So out of obedience to God, I came here, and I'm glad I did because I'm enjoying every minute.
We're glad you're in this role. Being out
Thank
there,
you.
I can attest to the work you've been doing. Quite, I don't know, joyous. I don't know what the
Yeah.
word would be for this, but it makes a difference out in the community. It makes a difference to see people trust you,
Right.
and for people to want to ask questions and not just get away from the car fast enough or close their door fast enough or pretend you're not there quick
Right.
enough to try to avoid you or not make eye contact. It's almost quite the opposite, where they recognize a familiar face, and
Right.
even if it's just a hello, that's something.
Exactly. What are some of the challenges of the position serving as a liaison?
I think one, I feel like it's definitely a position that shouldn't be just for one person. There's a lot to be done.
Such as?
There's a lot that can be done. The Hispanic community here in Cobb County, I think we're the third biggest population, Hispanic population in Georgia. I think we definitely have over 100,000 Hispanic residents. So there's a big Hispanic population, and for just one person, right?
It's just a lot of ground to cover, I think.
Yeah,
There's so much positive ground to cover.
definitely. There's a lot that can be done, and I have a lot of plans for 2025. Hopefully, we're hoping that next year we get some help in the community affairs unit to where I can focus strictly on the Hispanic community, being the Hispanic liaison. So right now I'm helping with community affairs as well. So I'm doing both the Hispanic liaison and I'm also community affairs side of it. I would love to focus on just the Hispanic community at some point. But right now that we're so short on the unit that I don't mind helping. And I'm glad that I'm helping because I also don't want to put all the workload on my two co-workers. So definitely just looking forward to getting some more people eventually, hopefully. That way I can focus on the Hispanic community. And I've been working with Dana, and we have some plans that there's a lot of things that we would love to do.
Plans.
Yeah, we have some plans big things that we want to do for the Hispanic community.
Had some new plans for you for 2025.
There we go. Let's talk about it.
Just had an email the other day, so
Hey, I'm all ears. Let's talk about it.
there's
Let's plan it.
things are coming. Well, they're trying to anyways. We're gonna trying to plan these things.
What a point of personal privilege is that, if that's what they call it. You guys have done amazing. The Public Safety Forum, I know I've spoken to Dana about it, and it's something that's long, long overdue.
Thank you.
And as I think is really making a positive impact, and it really is. And being an overlooked population, I know, and just full disclosure, I'm a Black person. But full disclosure, I think the Hispanic community is overlooked sometimes, and that's so I know you guys are doing a fabulous job.
Right. I think the biggest, thank you. And I think the biggest struggle that we have, not struggle, it's more like I just leave it at struggle. Having more people in DPS in general, like, whether it's fire, EMA, 911 or police that are Spanish speakers, right? To help with the planning and putting together bigger events, right? Big events for the Hispanic community. I think that's something that we have to work really, really hard in the whole planning situation to be able to have the people that we have that do speak Spanish so they can be available to be able to come out to events.
That is true. That is a little bit harder.
Definitely. And I think, and going back to the Public Safety Forum in Spanish that we had, it was big. I don't think sometimes, not even ourselves, we think back to how important and how big that event historically, I would say, means a lot, because I believe it was the first time we done a full public safety forum in Spanish, right? So
first time, not the last.
Right, definitely not the last. And it was a big step. And we had like over 80 people, right?
Close to 100.
Yeah, it's a big turnout for the first one, right? And one of the things that we said is, instead of asking the community, right, to come to us, it's like, let's come to them. Let's go to them to where they feel safe, right? They feel comfortable. So we did it at the St. Thomas Apostolic Catholic Church.
Yes.
We had a big turnout, and Univision was there. Espalanta was there. So they broadcasted it, right, on their news media. One thing I would say in the Hispanic news media, we get a lot of support. We get a lot of support. They don't want just what sells, right?
Mhm.
The big,
There's a lot of community outreach, I guess, coverage more so, which is great because, I mean, it's needed to put things out there. So there is a lot of support from that. But that night was, I mean, it was pretty great. I mean, it was very well received. I've been to plenty of forums before, and this was done on a smaller scale, I think, with the amount of resources that we ended up. But it had a huge impact, I think, because there was, more of like, we can't wait till the next one, or, where are we going to do the next one? And then from that, there's so many things that branched out. I mean, there wasn't enough people to cover, I think, the interest afterwards to kind of like mingle and talk and answer everyone's questions on a family level, I would say, because it wasn't like an open forum as far as, you're just sitting in your seat. We did have a little bit of that, but I think we really wanted to end it a little bit sooner so that we can like mingle and have, give them some time to just
one-on-one.
Yeah, interact. But with one-on-one, there's only so many ones. We did get some really interesting like stories and questions. And even off of that, more things came up. I know that like EMA ended up sending out or signing up more people for CERT from that. They filled up a whole class, I think that's correct.
Wow.
And I want to say they were planning on having EMA come work with the church with like their youth ministry, or they were setting something up. So
yeah, I was talking to King and also over at EMA, and also Frankie was the person, the point of contact for the EMA and CERT and in Spanish. And I've been working with him. We went to a church the other day to talk to them about CERT, and I also talked to them about law enforcement and 911 and not being afraid to call 911 and stuff like that, right? That they shouldn't be afraid of that nor the language nor their immigration status should be a barrier for them to be able to receive help from us, right? So talking to King and frankly, they said that at the forum they had a lot of signups for their CERT class, and they made connections, like Dana said, with other congregations that they were invited to come to and provide that class to their congregation so they can have more signups. It's a great resource that we're bringing out that not a lot of people know about, right?
Not a lot of people know about it, and not a lot of people do this. I mean, there's not, you don't find it maybe out of state perhaps in other areas, but around this area, that's not forums. Yes, public safety forums, of course, but kind of tailoring them to a specific demographic, I guess, to kind of bridge that gap. I don't think it's been done, but we've had fun kind of doing it. So hope to continue. But let's backpedal a little bit. So I remember when you were in the academy, because I used to film out at the academy a lot. And say, which class? I started in 56, but I graduated with 57. Okay, so 56, I want to say was the last. No, he did not. He has a tattoo of it.
57 tattoo. Man,
Look
57.
at that. So just in case you see Officer Laboy out there and you see a number on his arm, that is what it's for. Not the year he was born.
No.
But I do remember, I think that was the last class I filmed for recruit school. And I remember seeing you out there running and doing all the things. And
struggling, probably.
Well, you said it, not me.
There you go.
So tell us a little bit about what that was like. I mean, obviously there was a calling to go into law enforcement, but then I feel like sometimes getting there is kind of a shock for people because, again, not everybody makes it. This isn't a job that everybody qualifies or passes or thrives in, especially at the academy with the physical fitness and everything. So how was that once you finally were like, this is where I'm supposed to be? And then you get, like 6 a.m. PT every day.
Definitely. This is a topic that I get really excited to talk about because obviously I have a 57 tattoo, my mandate 57 on me. And the whole reason for that is because the academy, so when I graduated, I was so proud that I did that and I graduated from that because it is hard, right? It was hard. It was a struggle, right? So the toughest things that you go through are what you're most proud of. after you succeed, right? So, and the camaraderie that we had, right? I made some brothers and sisters, in that mandate that till this day, I'll talk to from time to time and stuff like that, and kind of get to know, what they're doing, what their life is and stuff like that. And so, yeah, so coming into the academy, it was definitely a big shock, right? I was always active. I wasn't going to the gym every day or stuff like that, but I would work out from time to time. What I did do a lot was play basketball. I used to play a lot of basketball. So I considered myself fairly fit, but definitely not to the level of academy fit. It's different. It's just,
You didn't even know.
no, I did not. And I came in and it was tough. It was tough at first. It was definitely tough. I would say the first 2 weeks of every day or every other day being there at 6 a.m. working out, right? And not like working out like, it's not gym working out, right? It's like we're running, we're, tumbling around in a mat. We're doing a lot of push-ups, a lot of sit-ups, a lot of core work, a lot of stuff.
Of mind over matter.
Mm-hmm. So that first 2 weeks were really, really hard because your body's getting used to that type of level of intensity and workout.
A routine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I remember I think the second day that I was working out, I threw up and I got dizzy. I almost passed out because I wasn't used to that level of exercise, right? And the first 2 weeks, I really was thinking about quitting.
Wow.
It was going through my head. And everybody says the same thing. The first 2 weeks are the toughest, are the hardest because your body's getting used to that level of intensity and that workout. So the first 2 weeks I was contemplating quitting. I'm like, man, I can't do this anymore. My body hurts. This hurt, that hurts. And man, going to sleep and then, wow, man, I got to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. And then I know I'm about to get killed for like an hour, 2 hours of working out. But I'm glad I stuck it out. I leaned on my brothers and sisters, right? And we all had the same sentiment, right? We were like, man, it's tough, but let's do it. Let's do it together, right? So that's where you build that camaraderie when everyone is struggling. When you look to the right and to the left and you see the person next to you also struggling, but fighting through it, that pushes you to also fight through it. And I told myself, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to do this. I'm glad I did. And it's definitely one of the proudest moments of my life when I graduated the academy because I stuck to something that was really, really, really hard and I was able to do it.
And do you have family, or how did you deal with family if you were married at the time, single?
So yes, I was married during the academy and I had a son. My oldest son, I have 3 kids right now, 4, 2, and 1. And my oldest, he was probably less than a year old when I started the academy. And yeah, it was definitely hard in a sense, as far as like coming home and being tired, exhausted, and then coming home to help my wife, right, with the kid and the household and stuff like that. But one thing through the academy was that, you leave at like 3 or 4 p.m., right? So you have the whole evening. So I like that schedule, definitely, leaving at 3 or 4 p.m., going home and having the rest of the evening with my family was definitely a plus. It was a lot of long nights talking to my wife, right? The first 2 weeks, kind of like, hey, this is hard, it's tough, or getting home and falling right to sleep, right? Because I'm exhausted. But she supported me through this time. She knew it was a tough time. So she never bothered me about not doing one of my chores or something like that, right? Or not helping her with our son. She helped me through it. So I'm definitely happy that she did. And I gotta give her a lot of respect and be thankful for her for being able to help me through this. So
Make sure we put that in this episode because she deserves to hear it. I know that
she'll be
it's a big struggle for families, especially if you don't have anybody in law enforcement, to know that lifestyle and then go into all of a sudden get thrown into that lifestyle that, I don't know, I think many people don't really realize what it's about. I mean, it's different. The whole lifestyle is different. Sending your spouse to work is not quite the same as sending somebody into an office to work. So definitely kudos to your wife. I know that is something very hard to figure out and navigate, especially with children.
I'll make sure she listens to this. So thank you, baby.
So you said you have 3 kids.
Correct. Yes, I have 3, 4, 2, and a 1. So 2 boys. The 2 oldest are the boys, and the youngest is Elijah, Liam, and Arya. I'll make sure they listen to this as well.
You can keep this in a time capsule.
There you go.
Just record this episode.
Right.
I don't know what they're going to play it on at that point because things are streaming now. However, by the time they get old enough, you know what? I don't know. It could be like an implanted device in their hands or something.
The world's going to be completely different for sure.
Listen, I just had this conversation the other day with my daughter because I don't know about you, but when I was younger, probably like 2000 or so, which is great because I know Ingrid's like really crying. So is everyone else who's going to listen to this. I'm like, seriously, 2000?
2000.
But they had that whole like the world was going to end and then it didn't end. And then they were like, all right, robots are going to eventually take over. When they said robots, I thought by like 2024, we'd have like flying, like actual flying cars. I'm sure they're out there somewhere.
The Jetsons promised us.
Right. But I really thought that we would have, like I could go to a dealership and those were going to be the dealerships. I feel like we're very behind at this point, and I don't know when that's going to happen. My daughter thinks it's going to be when she gets older, but
I don't think the issue it's the technology itself. The technology is there. I'm sure they can easily. I mean, look at what Elon Musk is doing, right? With being able to fly to Mars and stuff, right? And being able to land rockets back, right? That's huge for technology, right? So I'm sure the technology is out there. I'm sure there's got to be some prototype vehicles out there that do fly and drive, right? But I think do you
imagine taking away like half of the population from 75 rush hour traffic and they could just elevate up into the sky?
Right. But I think what the issue would be, how do you control it? What type of traffic are you gonna put?
Like law enforcement, flying law enforcement. I mean,
well, like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna put traffic lights in the sky, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even like airplanes, they have radar. They have people talking in their ear, like letting them know, like, hey, go to this altitude, this speed, so you don't crash to this other plane, right?
Maybe the solution is underground then.
There you go. That might be more possible.
Where you kind of split off and you just. Yeah. I'm just thinking about like the 50-50 where we could really use the space we've got because it's getting a little full here. It's been a little much lately.
So this is what happens in the beyond the safety net.
Yes,
we just go beyond.
You go anywhere.
There you go.
Take it anywhere.
It's in the title. Go beyond.
Beyond. Futuristic.
We can only do so much. We've got to talk about all the other things that makes us human. So we like to ask our officers and anyone we have in here, kind of, I'm circling back and we'll get back on track.
Nice segue.
What they like to do outside of the job, because we keep hearing that, and you are younger, so maybe this is different, which is we've had other officers that are been doing this for a very long time. And usually their advice is, you have to have something outside of work. In order to keep doing this for 20 years, there has to be more where you can kind of decompress or, just take your mind off it, especially from different units. So since you're in your 30s.
29, I'll be 30 now in December, yes.
29 again, that's what we all say. You do have a different perspective. You're not in law enforcement for 20 plus years.
4 years I've been.
So do you have something even now or at 4 years where that's how you decompress? Yeah. Do you leave the job when you leave the job at the end of the day?
Right.
Or is that still a little bit harder for you where you are more kind of in law enforcement mode all the time?
Even when you're off. Mm-hmm. When I was working the road, I did not have an off switch. It was definitely even, when I was off, if I was in around Cobb County and if, I'll see something, saw something or whatever, I would, either act on it or I would tell somebody else that this is going on or whatever, right? But now definitely in community affairs, I do have an off for sure. As soon as I leave the county, listen to the radio anymore. At that point, I'm clocked off and I'm on my way home. So my mind completely shifts, right? And I get home and, when I'm off, I'm off.
Do you feel like that's kind of made a difference? Like versus when you're on the road and you're always on, and now that you're really kind of tuning out when it's time to tune out has kind of helped, I guess maybe like your life balance.
Yes. I never really struggled that much when I was working the road. I think the biggest struggle that I had working the road was my sleep schedule, working evening watch, right? and then having to stay over because I had to do reports and stay until 1 or 2 a.m. and then go home. And then you have to, like you said, decompress, right, when you get home and everybody's, sleep. So what I did when I was working the road was video games. Video games was my thing. I used to play a lot of video games. I don't right now with 3 kids, but that's what I used to do is play video games and also basketball. A lot of basketball. I still do. I still play basketball. I guess that's what helps me now. But more importantly, the biggest thing goes back to God, going back to God, just coming home and then grounding myself in Him, right? And then if I saw something tough or hard that day, just kind of like, giving it all to Him, my burden, right? My struggles or, my anxiety or whatever it was, just praying about it and just asking Him to take it away from me and carry that burden, right? Carry that cross for me, right? Because He already did, right? So that's the biggest thing for me was always being grounded on Jesus Christ, on who He was and who He is and how much He can do for you.
What do you do for hobbies? I mean, just off.
Right now, honestly, I'm so busy with work and then coming home with 3 kids, right? That I guess my hobby is just playing with my kids, right? Family, just playing literally just with the cars and whatnot with my kids. I would literally just sit down or whatever and play with my kids with cars or throw the ball around in the house or stuff like that.
That's important though.
Definitely.
That's really important because
So
your schedule doesn't allow you to be around the time. So when you do take that time, not the amount of times, but the quality of the time.
Definitely. Be present.
Makes a complete difference.
Definitely.
I understand. I think at that point makes a huge difference.
I guess those are my hobbies. It's my family. I come home and then I have chores around the house,
Right.
and then my kids, being able to spend time with them, like you said, whether it's going outside, throwing the ball or inside playing with cars or whatever. Then little time that I have right now, what I'm working on is getting even deeper with God, my connection, my relationship with God even deeper. And I think that's what I'm working on right now. And that's the free time the little bit of free time that I have for myself is that's what I'm doing and trying to read the Bible every day. I'm not going to say I do because, you forget, but I'm trying to read the Bible with my wife that we started as well. And then there's a lot going on at church too. Tuesdays, like yesterday, we have like Bible study. So I go to Bible study on Tuesdays, and then Sundays, Sunday church, Sunday service. I'm an associate pastor at the church at History Makers. So there's meetings as well. Like for example, tonight we have a meeting at 8 to where it's all the pastors and the leaders, the elders of the church meeting. So stuff like that as well keeps me busy. So just, church, family, and work, I'm extremely busy. As far as other than that, like I had to put away the gaming systems and the computer and stuff like that. So I don't play anymore. I don't play video games. I don't have the time. And sports, if I do, it'll be maybe once or twice a month or something like that. Not as often as I used to, but church.
Things change.
Yeah. Church, family, and work. That's my life every single day.
Do you suggest any Bible studies for police officers? I know they're seeing a lot, they're hearing a lot, they're seeing kind of the seedier side of humanity. Any Bible studies that you can suggest?
That's a very good question. The only Bible study that I do is, with my church on Tuesdays. So I would say just reading the Bible itself, right? Start reading the Bible and try to make a habit of reading the Bible every day. If you strive for reading the Bible every day, maybe you read it maybe every other day, right?
Right.
But at least, practice on reading the Bible every day and praying. And a lot of people say, oh, I pray every day, but there's levels. There's levels, right? There's one thing is, oh, let me pray over the food, right? Or let me pray right before going to sleep and doing a quick prayer. The same prayer that you probably do every single night, right? But there's a different type of praying and connection when you submerge yourself and humble yourself before Him, right? And actually go to your knees and put some worship music in the background and just start having a deep conversation with Him, where it's different every time. You might be angry, right? And then you're fighting with God, right? Because something happened. It's like, why'd you let this happen, right? Or it might be that you're super grateful. Something went great that day or that week, and you're super grateful and happy. Or maybe you had tragedies happen or whatever. and you start crying and you're crying to God and asking him for help or something like that, right? So it's different when you submerge yourself in his presence and kind of like literally just have a conversation with him and give him all your worries, whether you're grateful, whether you're sad, whether you're angry, anxious, whatever it is that you're going through, just leaving it up to him and having a conversation with him and you feeling the Holy Spirit there with you. It's a different type of feeling. It's just different. And you feel that connection with the spiritual world and with the Holy Spirit and with him. It's amazing. It's an amazing feeling. So if you're listening and you want to strengthen your relationship with God, I highly suggest that you submerge yourself with him. Not just a quick prayer, in bed before you go to sleep, before you shut eye. Just kind of like take time to actually separate yourself, go into a room, put some worship music, and just start talking to him. And then you'll see that great things will happen.
See, this is the part about Beyond the Safety Net that we really like, because we get to get a very inside look beyond the day-to-day job, beyond to the calls that you're getting. And, we could sit here and ask you about a call, but also you are a newer officer,
right? Right.
So there's going to be so much more that you see later on. But getting to know you as a person is, I think, something that people don't quite get to see, and hearing that somebody is so, deep and devoted to their faith. How many people probably pass by our officers and have no idea, or maybe don't even want to mention it, or, they don't want to walk by and say, like, have a blessed day, because they might not know the reaction they're going to get. So this is the part that we like, to get to hear you and really hear you as an individual beyond the badge, basically.
I have a question for y'all.
Oh no, this is the edited part.
How many, if you could remember, how many times have you had in your life where you've had a fight or flight situation where you're like, oh snap, something serious is going on, adrenaline starts pumping, heart starts racing, and you have to make a decision? How many times do you think in your lifetime?
Well, a couple.
Like two? Couple of two?
Maybe.
2 times? What about you?
Probably a little bit more.
A little more?
A little bit older. So,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. But would you say like ballpark?
Maybe 5.
5? Okay.
Yeah.
So imagine that, but on a daily basis. That's law enforcement answering calls, right? Literally every single day. And then, so when you have that fight or flight, right, and your adrenaline starts pumping, and right, and you're on your way to a call, whether it's running license sirens and it's a hot call, and you're thinking about what's going to happen when I get there. You're going through that process, and you're trying to calm yourself and all that, right? We work on a day-to-day, right? On a even kill, right? On an even kill, right? Like every single person, if there's no fight or flight situation, right? We live on an even kill on a certain level, right? When we have that spike, right, of adrenaline, right? Everything that goes up has to come right back down right after, right? What happens that we don't go back to our normal self. We go back, we dump. It's a big dump after you've already been so stressed that you get really, really exhausted, really tired, right? So you go lower than your regular energy levels, right? Because your body had to exert so much energy but what happens after we're done with that call? We're expected to go back to being back in service and being ready for the next call. And there might be another time or maybe 2 more times during that day where you have that spike of adrenaline. Right. And every time you come right back down, you go lower than lower. So we're in law enforcement. We have this every single day of pump and dump of adrenaline, right? That in the long run, in a 20, 30-year career, it really messes with our bodies, like really, really, really bad. So that's why we have a lot of law enforcement officers that retire and have a lot of health issues, a lot of health problems, because on a daily basis, they have to deal with this pump and dump of adrenaline, and it's not normal, and it's not good for the body. So I say all that to say is for everyone who's listening to keep that in mind. Be mindful when an officer might be out there and might be in a bad mood, or might not be the friendly, go lucky, right? Smiling around officer doesn't mean that they're bad people or they're being rude. It's they on a daily basis they go through things that are hard to see, hard to feel, right?
That's why not everybody does that job.
Exactly. And it's extremely hard. And, we have, and and that's why our number one enemy in law enforcement is ourselves.
I think it goes to also maybe like future law enforcement officers too, that it's important to take care of yourself.
Right.
It is mentally, physically. I mean, it is important to reach out when you need somebody, talk about it with someone. And I know that at Cobb, we have some amazing resources for
Definitely.
mental health. It's also a lot of physical. I mean, and that's not something somebody can make you do. But, if you're going to go into this field, it's almost like it's not just the academy where you're just done with all the physical, but maybe taking some of that and continuously.
Right. And that goes back, and I brought that up. That goes back to your question. What was that for me that grounds me, right? Or what is the hobby that you do to release stress, right? So that's why everyone who has been here has said that they have to have something else that they can release some stress, because it's imperative. If not, it could be worse, if you don't.
I mean, and the opposite would be
yourself.
that everybody would do this if it was easy.
Exactly.
We wouldn't have shortages nationwide in departments if this was easy. I mean, so it tells us a lot that this is a very challenging job, where it takes somebody who really wakes up one day and says they're ready to commit to this life, to serve at this sort of level.
And Cobb County does a really good job of helping each other when you go through something tough. There's peer support, right? There's officers out there that you can talk to with experience that have probably gone through the same thing, and they can help you walk through it. Therapists, right? If you need it, it's available. You can reach out and have access to it. So I think Cobb County has done a really good job, and there's always room for improvement, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But has done a really good job of being conscious of that, of, hey, the mental health aspect of law enforcement of officers, that is very, very important. So I think
and the training too, because in the training, I mean, in the academy, they put you under high stress situations to really, I mean, again, just train your body, your mind to those reactions, so that you're able to go out there and not only have that spike where you have to make split-second decisions, but you're making them really like thinking them out.
Oh,
because
definitely.
you've already been there. You've already been put through that kind of environment to know that, just because you are spiking and your adrenaline's pumping, I mean, our officers are trained to really make the decisions they need to make and not impulsive ones, because they have been put under high stress situations already. So it's not a surprise when they're out on the road.
No, definitely. The level of training that we receive in Cobb County is top notch. We're talking about one of the best in the nation for sure. There's federal agencies. I've my sister, she's FBI, right? So I've met a lot of federal agents, and they all know who Cobb County is. They all brag about Cobb County, and it's kind of like, hey, you work for Cobb County? Okay, I know you're a good officer. I know you know how to do the job. I know you'll do a good job because you got trained by Cobb County. So the training that we receive it's noticed, and a lot of people, it's known. A lot of people know about the reputation that Cobb County has. And one thing I will say about Cobb County that I really, really liked, that I talked to other people about other agencies, one thing that we do a really good job of is having each other's backs. You're always going to have someone going with you to a call, There's certain calls that obviously require just one person, but if it requires two people, you will have that second person. And that's a luxury that I feel like not a lot of agencies have, because they're so short-staffed that a lot of times you have to handle a high-stress situation, a call that, you can handle by yourself, but it can go sideways, and you'll need somebody there to back you up, but that they have to handle on their own, So I'm grateful for Cobb County with the training that we receive, and because of that training, I'll know that the person coming right next to me, I know that they're gonna know what to do as well. They're gonna make the right decisions, and they're gonna have my back, and they're gonna protect me because they also received the same level of training.
So what would you, to kind of close out this episode, what would you say to somebody who's debating law enforcement, someone who's really young? What's your advice to them?
And let me piggyback on that before you
Yep.
answer. I know when you joined, you said it was about 4 years ago, and it was at the height of a lot of national turmoil
Definitely.
around law enforcement. So answer that question in the backdrop of, national turmoil and that sort of thing.
Well, I guess, yeah,
Yeah.
the kind of like atmosphere we're in now in this, because asking you this is completely different than asking somebody who's done it for 25 years because the climate wasn't what it is now, I guess, for
Right.
officers or for somebody interested going into law enforcement.
Here's my thing. Like, but for me, like, I don't know any different, right? Because I haven't
Mhm.
experienced the
Right.
other side, right? I came into with the turmoil with
Mhm.
people hating police and attacking us and stuff like that, right? So I don't know what it feels like to be on the other side where everybody supports you, right?
Right.
So for me, it's like, to a certain extent, the norm, right? Because that's where I came into. So I don't know other than that, but I feel like now definitely it takes a very special person, right? More so than before, right? Because you do have like you said, the turmoil, and you don't have great support. But I will say, I feel like it's a up and down situation, and I feel like the tides might be turning.
Mhm.
I feel like the tides might be turning, and hopefully the nation and everyone kind of goes back to fully supporting law enforcement. And there's a lot of people who do support law enforcement,
Yes.
more so than the ones that don't, right? Way more than the ones that don't. But the
Mhm.
thing is that the ones that don't are the loudest.
They're getting the
Mhm.
attention. the
Right. They
squeaky
get
wheel.
the
Mhm.
attention, and they're the loudest. They pump their chest about it, and they want to be heard, right? And the ones that do, kind of like, they support us on, quietly, right?
Right.
But because I do get a lot of, hey, thank you for your service, right? One-on-one, right?
Mhm.
And I do get support from, businesses, local businesses and stuff like that, owners and stuff. But you're not getting that same support from, the people that don't support you are just the ones that are heard the most,
Mhm.
the loudest, right? The ones who are super loud on social media, or they go to, news outlets and stuff like that, and they're being loud about it. But I think there's more people that do support us. They're just, which I understand, they don't want to get backlash either from publicly, maybe
Mhm.
supporting. So, but I feel like the tide is turning. I think the tide is turning, and hopefully in the next, a couple of years, several years or so in the future, it completely changes. So yeah, did I answer your question or no? I don't think I did.
So what is your advice? Being
Advice. Gotcha.
joining when everything was more negativity than
Right.
positivity for you. What is your advice to somebody debating this career?
I would say, give it a shot. Give it a shot. Like, why not? You see what I'm saying? Like, why not? Why, if you're thinking about it, if something that you've wanted to do, why not just give it a shot? If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then you can go back to doing whatever that you were doing, right? Or whatever else that you want to do. Just give it a chance, because I would say it definitely has been one of the greatest decisions that I've ever made. At the same time, yes, there's a lot of struggle that comes with it, but at the same time, there's a lot of gratification that comes with the job. You being able to help someone, right? Help that girl, that female, right? That wife that was brutally beat by their husband, and you being able to be there to help her to stop it and to put that person in jail because of the damage that he made, or whether it's the the robber, whether it's the murderer, whether it's whatever, right? You being there and being the person that the person of authority to stop that from happening, right? From continuing to happening. There's a lot of gratification out of that you get, and there's no greater gratification than you changing someone's life. And
Making a difference.
Right, actually make a difference, right? And I've had people that, I want to say have people, right? I've only been in law enforcement for 4 years. There's one person that I arrested that later on I saw again, and they thanked me for arresting them.
Well, tell us about that story.
So it was drug related, right? It was narcotics related. This person was doing some hard drugs. So I arrested the person, just doing my job. And then I would say like a year later, I saw him in the same area around the Delk Road area. Just, I can't remember where, I was either like a QT or a racetrack or something like that. the same area where I arrested him, because, he lives there. He's from that area. And he was just like, hey, I'm thankful. Thank you for arresting me. I've been meaning to get off of the drugs. And that kind of was the push so I can be on the inside and actually get myself clean. So there is another story though. Great story, if you don't mind if I share.
Sure.
It's not, I wasn't a part of the actual story. I just heard about the story on a call.
Okay.
So I go to a call. I'm helping Precinct 5, and I go help an officer with a call. And one of the persons of the involved parties told me, hey, I'm not going to say the officer's name because I think he wants to remain anonymous, but, hey, do you know Officer so-and-so, right? And I was like, yeah, I do. And I was like, hey, can you talk to him and can you tell him thank you? And I was like, okay, what happened? What for? Well, 2 years ago, he answered a call. It was the same house. He answered a call where I had a mental breakdown. I was going through a lot. I was addicted to drugs. I was an alcoholic as well. And I had a mental breakdown. And he responded and he sat down with me for an hour or 2 hours and just talked to me and just had a conversation with me, treated me as a human being. And I appreciated that. And that was the turning point in my life. She went to the hospital and she decided from that day forward, she was going to completely change her life. And he spoke the kingdom of God to her, spoke about God, spoke about Jesus Christ. She accepted Jesus Christ and she changed her life completely. And when I met her, she was like a manager or something at a corporate, at a company. She was doing really well for herself, and she completely changed her life. And she gave credit to that officer who took the time to actually treat her as a human being and got her help and talked the gospel to her, for sure. That story to me, really, I was like, wow.
Changing lives.
Definitely.
Changing lives.
Yeah,
So if you're
making a
listening,
difference.
this is one of the, that's how you can make a huge difference in someone's life, right? If you can do it for one person, it's worth it.
Yep.
It's worth it.
That's so great. Well, on that note, thank you for being with us today. Thank you for sharing your story, your personal insights, everything about you so that we can get to know you a little bit better. And hopefully somebody runs into you and also knows you a little bit better out there because of this. So we appreciate you being on here and
Thank you.
continue to make that difference because it does count one person at a time.
Right. That's right. Exactly. A lot of work to be done. And, I'm up for the challenge. I'm ready, and I'm going to continue to work hard and continue to make a difference out there in the community. So thank y'all. Thank you, Beyond the Safety Net.
And with that, thank you so much for listening. Remember, you can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, and don't forget to leave a 5-star review for us. And we hope to see you next time. Take care.
Bye.